Welcome to Mr. 96's Pop Reviews. My name is Mr. 96. The year is 2024, and I can't believe I've been making videos for 9 years now. Hell, to those of you who followed me since my beginnings, you've watched me for nearly a decade now. In the past, I would use these anniversary videos to talk about songs I feel qualified to talk about in a sense. Charlie Puth, K-pop, and most of the time random stuff that just happens to be popular. Okay, there wasn't a consistent theme with these videos, but that's good actually, because today's episode will be relatively unprecedented for me. For past anniversaries, I've tried to reflect on how much I've supposedly changed since I started this channel, but I think this might be the true test as I look at the breakout single from one Shaboozey. For one, 2000s childhood pop has become my main series, so this is only the third pop review of 2024. But second, I'm not a country guy, so I'm gonna analyze a song that's way out of my comfort zone. I mean, if I wanted something more comfortable, I could have just chimed in on the Drake and Kendrick stuff, but that's already old news by this point. Today's song is still at number 1 as I'm recording this, which is amazing because this review is already a month past the actual anniversary. Oh yeah, sorry everybody. But delay aside, I really do want to share my thoughts on this song, specifically why I even have thoughts at all. It is not a secret that my interest in country music is practically non-existent. There are country songs I've liked in the past, but none I've ever loved, which I think is a telling sign. There are other genres of music that I'm not necessarily the hugest fan of, like rock, but I can name a bunch of rock songs I love off the top of my head. If I heard it on Guitar Hero or Rock Band, chances are that I like it. In addition, I'm someone who's open to changing his mind. In the early years of my channel, I wasn't a huge fan of trap, but over time, I warmed up to it. But even with the good country songs I've heard in the last few years, none have ever made me more interested in checking out the genre, and I want to figure out why that is. My first guess would probably be the old-fashioned aesthetic. Country music is a rural genre, so it tends to sound very down-to-earth with instruments that sound like they can be crafted by hand, which is the exact opposite of the kind of music I usually listen to, but I don't think it's as simple as the instruments. If that were the case, then I would hate anything that has an acoustic guitar, but that's clearly not true, as I love plenty of songs that use acoustic guitars. Hell, plenty of R&B and pop hits use them, and those songs are great. Okay, so it's not the instruments that are a problem. Maybe my hang-up is that it's a genre from a different culture? I guess that could be partly true. All these songs about trucks, church, marriage, and drinking are not exactly relatable to me. I don't drive a truck, I'm not religious or married, and I've never even had a sip of alcohol, so all the usual country topics just fly right over my head. But again, I could say the same thing about hip-hop. I'm not from the inner city, I didn't grow up in the streets, and I definitely don't do drugs or have gang connections, yet when I hear really good rap songs, I can empathize with their struggle. In addition, despite the fact that I like music from Japanese and Korean media, I'm not Japanese or Korean, so I think I've proven I can like stuff from a different culture. When I really sat down to think about why I don't like country, I think it comes down to multiple things. Of course, the musical aesthetic and cultural differences don't help, but they don't illustrate what really turns me off from the genre. What truly irritates me about country music is that it is made by and for intolerant people. So why is Shaboozey having a #1 hit such a big deal? Morgan Wallen had a #1 last year, so it shouldn't be worth talking about, right? Well, the unavoidable elephant in the room is that Shaboozey has a #1 country hit as a black artist. And I'm sure some of you are probably thinking, why does that matter? There have been popular black country artists before and even now, so this shouldn't be a story. But if you really think about it, you should ask yourself, why is it that we normally don't associate black people with country music? Country music is from the South, right? And the South has a large black population. Atlanta is the hip-hop capital, and it historically has had more black people than white. Even the country music capital of Nashville has a decently sized black population at about 25%. As a result, I should know plenty of black country artists just from cultural osmosis, yet for some reason, I can't name enough to use my second hand. Why do I think of country music as a predominantly white genre when most southern cities have a much higher percentage of black people than that of Los Angeles, California, which has no shortage of popular black artists in other genres? Well, the simple answer comes down to the institutions and culture in place, which have shown to the world that country music is fucking racist. When Beyoncé made her country album this year, many people within the country music ecosystem apparently hated that this mega famous pop star had the audacity to call her own stuff country music, despite the fact that Nashville was fine with bro country trash for years. But her point was that black people had a massive part in the roots of country music, so she made this album after her horrible experience of being rejected by the country scene. In 2016, Beyoncé performed her country song Daddy Lessons off of her Lemonade album at the CMAs. She brought the Chicks along to perform, who themselves were blacklisted by country music back in 2003 when they famously spoke out against George Bush going to war in Iraq. And it should come as no surprise that plenty of racist country fans thought Beyoncé didn't belong there. So how did the CMAs respond to the backlash? By caving into the racists and taking down all promotional material of her performance.
It's
Absolutely.
the highest rated 15 minutes in CMA history. And then they start getting, racist assholes bombarding their website with comments and emails and whatever. And so they take her down. They took our performance down and caved to that bullshit.
Hell, Natalie Maines of the Chicks right here even says in this interview that they only came back to the CMAs because Beyoncé asked them to. If it weren't for that, they never would have stepped foot on that stage again after '03. And as much as I've made a series about nostalgia for the 2000s, I want to be clear that there were many parts of the 2000s that were awful. And the worst of them all was the pro-war country music post 9/11.
We'll put a boot in your ass, it's the American way.
Of course, I'm aware I shouldn't dismiss an entire genre just because it has right-wing fans. I mean, I watch football, and many right-wingers exist in an even more horrifying form known as Dallas Cowboys fans. But at the same time, I can't really root for a genre that made Morgan Wallen even more popular after he dropped the N-word. But back to Beyoncé's country album. On Cowboy Carter were a couple songs featuring an under-the-radar artist, and that featured artist was one Shaboozey. Shaboozey's most notable credit beforehand was on the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack in 2018, specifically this song.
Who in here trying to start a riot?
Yep, that screaming voice is the same man who's now singing a low-key song about bar drinking. And seeing as this song has been a #1 hit and #1 country hit, it clearly must have resonated with the country audience, and it apparently has. And you know what? Good for him. He's having his breakout moment, and country music has captured the cultural zeitgeist, which at least gives me more reason to review country, because the only reason I had for making this video is that it interpolates Tipsy.
Everybody in the club get tipsy.
It's crazy to think that this song is 20 years old now. J-Kwon was 17 when this song came out, and now he's more than double that age. Hell, he was now the old man in the room when Shaboozey brought him out for a collab performance at the BET Awards. As for Tipsy, I've always thought it was pretty good. Not amazing, but it fits with the St. Louis rap of that era with Nelly, Chingy, and Jibs, I guess. I'm kidding. Actually, I just remembered something. Did you know this video is a review of a bar song by Shaboozey?
1, here comes the 2 to the 3 to the 4.
I honestly forgot, as I have yet to give my opinion on it, so let's do that right now. A bar song Tipsy by Shaboozey is fine.
Someone pour me up a double shot of whiskey. They know me and Jay Dale's got a history.
As far as country songs go, I don't complain when it comes on. It's got a welcoming vibe, and even though I don't drink, I totally get the appeal. It's good vibes, and I respect that. On the other hand, something about it prevents me from wholeheartedly loving it, and strangely enough, it has nothing to do with the country aesthetic I complained about earlier, as the music itself sounds great. My issue is more that it's a country remix of Tipsy, which works in a way, but at the same time feels a bit off. Now, Tipsy is a club jam for people who couldn't get into clubs, seeing as J-Kwon wasn't even legal at the time. It's essentially just a house party song, but it still fits in with the crunk of that era, like Get Low, Yeah, and Freak-a-Leak. With the bar song, it's more of a toned-down atmosphere where you're having shots and laughs with your buddies, which deserves its own anthem, but isn't necessarily the vibe I want from Tipsy. To me, it's like asking for a classier version of Salt Shaker, like Aunt Louise in Mississippi will freak out otherwise. But really, that's probably just a me thing. I'm usually not a fan of when someone takes a popular song and tries to make it slower or more respectable while completely missing the point of the original. That's not me saying Shaboozey intentionally watered down the song. I do think this is a genuine artistic expression of his. It just doesn't infuse a bunch of excitement in me. Then again, that's probably just my own implicit bias against country music, so perhaps I need to educate myself on the history of the genre as well. I'll at least be more conscious than Nashville itself. While this may have started as a review of a #1 hit, this was also an exercise for me to come to terms with my own relation to country music. 9 years is a long time to make videos, so I'm trying my best to become better both as a person and as a creator. Perhaps this new era of country could win me over. For me, it will depend on how Nashville reacts to people like Shaboozey, but that is something we'll just have to see.
Everybody at the bar getting tipsy.
Once again, I want to thank you all for 9 years of support and for helping me reach 6,000 subscribers. And if you want to suggest 2,000 songs for me to review, you can join my wonderful patrons on Patreon. For just $1 per video, you can join my patron-only Discord server where we chat and chill, and at $2 per video, you get to vote on what songs I review for my series 2000s Childhood Pop. At $5 per video, you get to be listed in my Names of Fame, and at $10 per video, you get a personal shout through the heart along with Casey Vellante, Jason Semler, and Prideful Zella. Once again, I'm Mr. 96. If you want to see more pop reviews, click the subscribe button below and tap that bell to be notified when I drop a new episode. I never imagined we'd be approaching a decade so soon, but it's been a fun ride. Pop songs may come in numbers, but there's only one. 96.
너의 그 말, 그 잔인한 말, 가슴 아픈 말, 칼날 같은 말. 너의 그 말, 그 잔인한 말, 날 울리는 말, 날 죽이는 말.